The champagne glasses had barely stopped clinking when Victoria rose to her feet. One hand pressed against her swollen belly, she announced to the entire ballroom that she was carrying Marcus's child. Gasps rippled through the crowd of 200 guests. Cameras flashed, and in that frozen, breathless moment, a 5-year-old girl in a red dress pointed her tiny finger across the table and asked a question that would unravel everything. Before we continue, if you believe in stories about humanity, second chances, and the quiet courage of ordinary people, please take a moment to like this video, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to USA Enlightened Stories so you never miss a story like this one. Now let's go back to where it all began. Marcus Whitfield had built his life brick by brick, starting with nothing but a scholarship and a stubborn refusal to fail. By 34, he ran one of the city's most respected architecture firms, his name etched onto glass towers that touched the skyline. But success had cost him. His marriage to Claire had ended 2 years earlier, not in screaming matches, but in silence, the kind of silence that fills a house when two people simply stop trying. Claire had taken a job overseas, and their daughter Ava stayed with Marcus, cared for during the days by Carmen, the quiet, hardworking woman who had been part of their household since Ava was born. Carmen was not just a maid. She was the one who kissed away scraped knees, who sang Ava to sleep when nightmares came, who taught her to tie her shoelaces and say her prayers before bed. Carmen had her own daughter, Sophia, a toddler with wide brown eyes and a laugh that could soften the hardest of days. She raised her alone, her husband having left before Sophia could even remember his face. Every morning, Carmen arrived at Marcus's penthouse with Sophia in tow, because she had no one else to leave her with, and Marcus, to his quiet credit, never once complained. The two girls, Ava and Sophia, grew up practically as sisters, sharing crayons and cartoons and secrets only children understand. Victoria entered Marcus's life like a storm dressed in silk. She was beautiful, sharp, ambitious, the daughter of a real estate mogul who saw in Marcus not just a partner, but a merger of empires. Their courtship was fast, glamorous, splashed across society pages. Marcus told himself he was happy. He told himself that Ava needed a mother figure, that the ache in his chest when he came home to an empty office was simply loneliness, easily solved by companionship. He ignored the way Victoria's eyes flickered with impatience whenever Ava interrupted their dinners, the way she referred to Carmen as the help instead of by name, the way she never once asked Sophia's age or her favorite color. 6 months into their engagement, Victoria missed her period. She cried. She trembled. She told Marcus this was fate. This was meant to be. And Marcus, caught in the whirlwind of her tears and his own guilt for not loving her the way he once loved Claire, proposed a lavish engagement party to announce it to the world. Tonight was that night. 200 guests. A ballroom on the 40th floor, the city glittering behind glass walls like a field of fallen stars. And Victoria, radiant in red silk, her belly rounded beneath the fabric, rising to declare to everyone that she was carrying his child. Marcus should have felt joy. Instead, he felt something colder, quieter, a suspicion he had buried for weeks. Ever since he'd noticed Victoria wincing when she forgot and sat a certain way. Ever since her doctor's appointments always seemed to happen when he was traveling. Ever since a friend had casually mentioned seeing her at a clinic 3 towns over, the kind of clinic that specialized in things Marcus didn't want to name, even in his own mind. It was in that suspended silence, guests still murmuring their congratulations, that little Ava, sitting beside her father in her own red dress, hair pinned with small white flower, turned to look at Victoria's stomach with the unfiltered curiosity only a child possesses. And then Sophia, barely 3 years old, sitting in her mother Carmen's lap at a modest table near the kitchen entrance where the staff had been seated, pointed her chubby finger toward Victoria and asked in a clear, carrying voice that only toddlers have, a voice that sliced through 200 conversations like a blade through silk. "Mama, why does the baby lady's tummy look like your pillow you put under your shirt for play?" The room did not laugh. The room did not breathe. Carmen's face went the color of ash as she clutched Sophia closer, whispering for her to hush. But the words were already out, already hanging in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. Every head turned first to Sophia, then to Carmen, then inevitably to Victoria, whose face had drained of all its color, her hand frozen against a belly that suddenly seemed too perfectly, too symmetrically round. Marcus felt his own heart stop. He remembered with sudden clarity a church nativity play at Ava's school 2 months earlier, where Carmen had helped costume a group of children, and a spare pillow stuffed under a choir robe for a pregnant Mary had gone missing afterward, a detail so small he'd forgotten it until this very second. Sophia, who had been backstage with her mother that day, remembered. Children always remember the strangest, smallest, truest things. The silence stretched unbearably before Victoria's composure cracked entirely. She stammered. She reached for excuses. She accused the toddler of nonsense, but her hands were shaking now. And when Marcus rose slowly from his chair and asked, in a voice quieter than the whole ballroom had ever heard him use, whether she would allow her own doctor to confirm the pregnancy right there, right then, with a call to the clinic, Victoria's mask shattered completely. She admitted, through tears that were finally honest instead of performed, that there was no baby, that she had panicked when she felt Marcus Marcus drifting from her, that her father had pressured her to secure the engagement before Marcus could change his mind, that she believed, foolishly, desperately, that a pregnancy would bind him to her forever, a debt of duty, even without love. The guests began to whisper, then to murmur louder, some in horror, some in something close to pity. Victoria fled the ballroom in her red dress, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her father chasing after her with a face like thunder, leaving behind 200 untouched champagne glasses and a silence so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. He turned slowly toward the small table near the kitchen entrance toward Carmen, who was still holding Sophia tightly, murmuring apologies, terrified she had just cost herself her job, her livelihood, the only stability she had for her daughter, terrified that in one innocent sentence, her toddler had unraveled a rich man's engagement in front of the entire city's elite. Her eyes, when they met Marcus's, were full of dread, but Marcus did not see a woman who had ruined his evening. He saw, perhaps for the first time in years, the person who had actually been present in his life, who had raised his daughter with more warmth than anyone else in that glittering room, who had shown up every single day without applause or diamonds or a single ounce of pretense. He walked toward her table, past his stunned guests, and knelt down to Sophia's eye level, thanking her gently for telling the truth. He told Carmen she had nothing to apologize for. He told her that sometimes the smallest voices in the room carry the loudest truths, and that tonight her daughter had given him something no fortune ever could: clarity. In the weeks that followed, the engagement was formally called off quietly, without scandal beyond what had already unfolded in that ballroom. Marcus found himself, for the first time in years, sitting at his own kitchen table for dinner instead of at galas and business functions, watching Ava and Sophia build towers out of blocks on the floor, while Carmen moved around the kitchen with the ease of someone who had always belonged there, even if no one had said so out loud. He began to notice things he had been too busy, too guarded, too afraid to notice before. The way Carmen hummed old songs while she cooked, the patience in her voice even after a 12-hour day, the quiet dignity with which she carried a life that had given her so little and asked her to give so much. It did not happen overnight. And this is not a story about a fairy tale rescue, because Carmen never needed rescuing. She had already built a life of quiet strength on her own. But slowly, gently, over shared dinners and school pickups and evenings spent watching their girls fall asleep tangled together on the living room rug, something real began to grow between Marcus and Carmen, not built on performance or pressure or a stuffed pillow beneath silk, but on years of small, unnoticed kindness finally being seen. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you that truth often comes from the purest, smallest voices, and that the people who show up quietly every single day are sometimes the ones worth everything, please don't scroll away without leaving a like and sharing this story with someone who believes, like we do, in second chances. And before we go, we have a special request. We'd love for you to comment the word truth below if you believe children see what adults so often choose to ignore. Because sometimes it takes a toddler's innocent question to reveal what a grown heart had been too afraid to admit.